What if a mimic was trying to steal your baby? Well, I got an email of a family that is dealing with this right now, and it is terrifying. Guys, headphones, prayers, everything for this one. If you want to send me your true scary story, my email is in my bio. Today's submitter's name is Ash, and Ash and her boyfriend in 2024 moved to Oklahoma to move in with a couple of friends. It's also important to note that Ash is pregnant during this time. We'll call these friends' names Nix and Jake. So one day Ash is upstairs talking to Nix when she thinks that she sees her fiance in the corner. She looks over at her fiance, and her fiance is looking at her like he needs something. So she looks at him and she's like, and he doesn't say anything to her. He just stares at her and then he walks away. So she's like, okay, that's kind of weird. And she continues to talk to Nix. After she's done talking to Nix, a few minutes later, she walks downstairs to go see what her fiance wants. Her fiance's name is Asmudel. So she asks him, hey, what did you need? And he looks at her like she's crazy. He's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I just saw you upstairs. You just stared at me. And he was like, I wasn't upstairs. So this really freaks Ash out, but she doesn't really know what to do with it. So she kind of just brushes it off. A few days later, she's sitting right next to Asmudel, and she looks in the corner and she sees this figure standing in the doorway. Now this figure looks exactly like her fiance, and she's so confused. She's just staring at it as her fiance is sitting right next to her. So she's staring at this thing, it's staring back at her. She said that literally 2 or 3 minutes went by before she broke contact with this thing. She was so confused and in shock that she couldn't even move. And out of nowhere, this thing just vanishes. She doesn't really know what to do with this. She's like, should I say anything? Should I not? I am so confused right now. But she decides not to say anything because she's freaked out and she doesn't want to seem like she's crazy. This is just the beginning of the terror that happens to this family. A couple of months later, at the end of April, beginning of June, they move into their own house. One thing about this house is everybody knows that it's haunted. The reason being is because her fiance, Asmudel, used to live in this house. An example of something that happened to him when he was a kid, one time he was talking to his dad in the kitchen about his ceiling fan in his room. He goes back into his room, he lays in his bed. Something tells him to get up out of his bed immediately. So he jumps up, he gets out of his bed, and the minute he steps foot on the ground, the ceiling fan falls on the bed. So now they're living in this house, and one day in mid-June, her fiance had gotten a job where it kept him away from home for a little bit, and she was still pregnant during this time. So she's sitting on her couch when she hears footsteps, and she knows that he's at work, so she gets a little concerned, but she checks his location anyway. She looks down at her phone to check his location. She looks up, and when she looks up, she sees him standing in the front doorway. Next to him is a kid standing in the doorway of the bathroom. Now, Ash is absolutely terrified at this point. She cannot move. She is literally scared for her life. Ash said before this incident occurred, her baby would move around fine in her stomach. But after this incident occurred, she stopped moving around so much. And when she was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck twice. She almost was unalived. Now, you may think this is the end of it, and so did I, until I got a follow-up email from her, and she was terrified in the email. She said, something is going on my house. Please, I don't know what to do. I am so scared right now. Apparently, the other night, this was just a couple nights ago, she had gotten up to go to the bathroom. At this point, her daughter is born and she's in her bassinet in her room. She goes to the bathroom and she turns just to look at the bassinet in the room to check on her baby real quick, and she sees herself standing above the bassinet. Just herself, okay? Except for the only difference is this person is wide-eyed with red eyes, and she looked like she was trying to cry but like couldn't cry, like almost like trying to fake cry. That was the look on this woman's face. So obviously at this point she's like, this thing's trying to take my baby. So she starts walking towards it because she wants it to get away from her baby, and as soon as she does, she runs and grabs her baby. She pulls the baby out of the bassinet. This thing disappears and she's absolutely petrified. Sorry, both of my lights died. A couple days later, this is actually just a few days ago, her husband has this nightmare, and he has a nightmare of the shadow figure that she saw standing by the couch. In this nightmare, he's putting his baby upstairs. By the way, they do not have an upstairs. Afterwards, he comes back down, he sees his wife, they're now married, and he's like, I don't feel good. Something is wrong. I feel like something is wrong right now. I'm gonna go to the kitchen and I'm gonna grab a shiny object. So he comes out of the kitchen after grabbing that object and he goes towards his wife. And before he gets to her, he looks to his right and he sees this tall figure, like 8 feet tall. It's just this shadow figure. So he then stops to look at it. He said that it had no face and it was just growling at him. And then it just starts smiling. So while this is all happening in real life, his wife Ash is laying next to him and she sees him freaking out in his sleep. He's screaming in his sleep. So she tries to wake him up. She's like shaking him to wake him up. And then she looks at his eyes and she can see the whites of his eyes. So she just panics. So he finally wakes up and he's just panicked. He tells her about his dream and she's like, that's super weird. Then he falls back asleep and then 30 minutes later, not even 30 minutes later, the baby wakes up crying, asking for her father. So a couple nights ago, this was like 2 days ago, literally, she was trying to fall asleep in her bed and she can't fall asleep when all of a sudden she feels something reach out from underneath the bed, tries to grab her but brushes against her hair. Then all of a sudden this stench came in the room and she said that it smelled like actual death, like terrible. Now she wants to know what you guys think because she's absolutely terrified. She wants to know what she can possibly do. Does anyone have any suggestions for her? They don't know what to do and they feel like their life is in danger and they feel like something is trying to take their baby. And I personally think that this sounds like a mimic problem. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a mimic problem? You guys have now seen me in 5 different lightings. Sorry. So my name is Kaisa. I tell true scary stories that you guys submit to me on here every single night. If you have a true scary story, like I said, emails in my bio, kaisaspooky@gmail.com. Love every single one of you so much. I love it when you guys answer other people's questions in my comments. I love it when you guys are just sweet and kind. Honestly, you make my day every single day and I truly, truly mean that. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful night, but I also need you to do me one more thing. And what is that? Have a spooky night. Love you guys. See you in the next one.